We are also joined by other members of our local chapter. And before we get directly into the content, because I know you want to hear, everybody is trying to find ways to chase the bag, right? So before we get into that information, I just want to share a little bit with you about our organization. Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated was founded on January 19th, 1937 by our founder, Florence K. Norman. Florence K. Williamson Norman and a group of other women gathered and engaged in various professions and thought it to be only right to collaborate their strengths to support other women in entrepreneurship and other professions. Members of the organization are encouraged to assume leadership responsibility in local civic affairs and to cooperate with those organizations pledged to the principles of human dignity, education, equal opportunity, fair employment practices, and housing. Chapters of Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated can be found in major U.S. cities from as far east as Boston, Massachusetts, down to Macon, Georgia. And we also have Far West chapters in California. As I said before, we are Xi chapter, located in Syracuse, New York, and founded in 1955. This week, beginning on March 17th, we are celebrating what we call LKM Week. The purpose of LKM Week is to place special emphasis on the objectives of our sorority, which are sisterhood, achievement, service, and scholarship, through special community programs and community service. This webinar serves as one of those pillars. So we have with us Romanda Gibson Stevenson from Chase. She's going to talk to us about budgeting, saving, and credit, okay? And if you're like me, like I said before, I'm trying to get the bag. I need to know how to do right by my money, not just for myself, but for my kids, right? So a little bit about Romanda. Romanda serves as the Chase Vice President, Community Manager, covering areas of Rochester and Buffalo, New York. Her office partners with community leaders, residents, and businesses as a part of the firm's racial equity commitment. Prior to joining Chase, she worked as the community development manager for the City of Rochester Mayor's Office. Romanda serves on a variety of boards, task force, and other groups, namely as recording secretary of the Rochester Alumni Chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Hey, Soror. Delegate troop leader of the Williams Park Service Unit of Girl Scouts of Western New York, and board member of Niche Market Insights, and member of the Western New York chapter of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. Ma'am, you are one busy woman. Thank you for being here with us. Romanda currently resides in Rochester, New York with her husband and their two beautiful daughters. Romanda, take it away.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you offering me this wonderful opportunity to engage with the women of Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated. You guys are doing such phenomenal work in the community, and I'm so proud to be here to be one of your guest presenters. And thank you so much for Sora Parker for your beautiful, beautiful, beautiful introduction. And I promise to do you proud. Okay. So team, those who are looking at this virtually live right now, and those who will soon be looking at this particular video via our social media streams, please feel free to stop me with love offline if you have any questions or concerns, because there's a lot of information that we're going to cover. So that way you can be able to thrive from cradle to grave with your finance. So that's the whole goal of this conversation, so we can save and grow our money and our wealth. Okay. So without further ado, I am going to put up a registration link, and also my technology team, they're going to put the magic in the chat as well. So please feel free to take a screenshot of this photo. It has my direct contact information as well as the registration link. So that way Chase knows that we have been out in the community doing important work with serving underserved and underrepresented populations. And I'm talking about our brown and our Black community, our LGBTQ plus populations. I'm talking about our Asian American, Native American, and Asian Pacific Islander populations. I'm just talking about our veterans, all those people that have been normally overlooked and underserved. My office has the distinct honor of purposely and passionately targeting those populations in order to talk about financial education, to serve in our community with community service projects, as well as sitting on boards and task forces and groups and representation of JP Morgan Chase within the community. So I'm excited to be here to talk about money. Okay. So now that I have shared this particular slide with registration, it will allow Chase to also send you a survey offline to rate my performance. Chase's standard is so high that they only recognize a score of a 9 or 10. That is because Chase is all about excellence. So please, in the event that you receive a survey to rate my performance here today, please consider filling it out so that way it can help the firm know that I am reaching our brown and Black population. Okay. Most importantly, I am going to get into the meat and potatoes because we're here to talk about money, right, ladies? So let's get into it. Okay. So before you will see my presentation on how to set goals and build a budget and save. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is I want this to be as interactive as possible. There will be a live chat conversation towards the end of this presentation. But if you feel led, unmute yourself, then we can talk and just, talk amongst family. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for those who may be viewing as well via our social media streams. Okay. So now I'm going to go into presentation mode and we are going to conquer the world. Okay. All right. So what we're going to be covering, team, we're going to be talking about finding your values and using them to shape your goals. Okay. We're also going to be building a budget that works for you, not for me, but for you. Okay. Because my budget is going to be unique to me and your budget is going to be unique to yourself, as well as we're going to be talking about saving for what matters to you. Okay. Because each of us have our own savings goals and our desires and how we're going to build for ourselves and our loved ones. And we're going to talk about that. And I want this, again, to be as interactive as possible. Okay. So again, ask your question, because most likely if you have that question, one of your peers that is viewing this or in this wonderful space with us has the exact same question as well. And you're answering not only for yourself, but also for a sister or brother as well. All right. So now we're going to be talking about finding your values. All right. Now, your values are what is unique to you. Okay. It's basically your why. All right. Why are you doing this? So we all have things that we treasure and that we hold near and dear to us, and they are considered our values. So it unlocks the motivation and your focus needed to achieve important goals, because why we're doing something, that motivation is going to determine the longevity and our commitment towards the values that we have towards our saving goals as it relates to our money. Okay. So I'm going to give you an example. Now, me, what I did is a few years ago, I actually had the goal and financial goal of actually saving for an emergency savings fund. I didn't have an emergency savings fund, and I was like, you know what, I need a savings fund just to save for emergencies. I know that the recommendation is having at least 3 to 6 months of money set aside that pays for all of your expenses for emergencies. But I was just content with just having at least 1 month's worth of magic. So what I did is I started saving for an emergency fund. $1 is better than no dollar set aside. And you know how sometimes the rain comes. And when I'm talking about rain, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about an emergency that may happen. There may be a death in your family, God forbid. There may be a car that breaks down that you need to transfer yourself back and forth to work. There may be a rain such as a loss of a job, God forbid, or you may have a loved one that may be sick. You never know what can happen when I talk about rain. But we want to make sure that in the event it rains, like a housing repair that you need to get a roof or get a water heater fixed on your home, for example, you want to make sure that you have some money set aside for that. So that was my goal. It was to set aside some money. So what ended up happening was, during that time, after I saved up some money in my emergency fund, my father, he was recently diagnosed with brain cancer. So I'm at my job at JP Morgan Chase. You know, we're family. Let's talk about my business, right? So I'm at my job at JP Morgan Chase. I get a call. And you know how you get those calls where, you know, they call back to back and you're like, okay, what's going on? This person never calls me. My cousin was on the other line calling me at work, which I already knew. Once I saw my cousin's number, because she never calls, I knew there was something going on with my dad. My dad lives in New Jersey. I live here in, you know, Rochester, New York. So I answered the phone. I excused myself out of my board meeting and I answered the phone. And it's my cousin on the line telling me that my father was in the hospital and that he was diagnosed with brain cancer, and that his medical team, since I was his next of kin, that his medical team wanted me to actually approve him getting brain surgery. Now, come on now, brain surgery, like that's something that's like no easy matter to say yay or nay on. I was devastated because that was the first I ever heard of my dad having cancer. And they wanted me to make a life or death decision, such as approving them to give brain cancer surgery to my dad over the phone. So I'm freaking out. So I told them to hold off. You know how like you have hospitals that you know are known for different things. Like here in Rochester, we have certain hospitals that are known to have, you know, if you have an emergency, such as a gunshot wound or critical need, you go to, you know, this particular hospital. If you're having a baby, you go to that particular hospital. You get what I'm trying to say? Or if you need heart treatment, you go to that hospital. I did not know that the hospital my father was in was the brain surgery hospital. So I was scared to make a decision like that, not knowing anything about that medical institution. And, you know, and especially just finding out at my job that my dad was fighting for his life. They had only given my dad 3 months to live at that point because his tumor was so advanced in his brain that they didn't know what was going on. So this is 2 years ago. I'm dating myself in April. I'm sorry, in August, it'll be 2 years. And when I tell you, I got off the phone with the hospital, told them that I would, you know, I'm going to be right there. Don't touch them. Don't do anything. I'll be right there. So I called my sister. I'm crying. Because you know, I was like, Daddy's sick. Dad, you know, Dad is in the hospital. He has cancer. The doctor's telling me that he has 3 months to live and we need to make a decision. And my sister was like, look, I don't have the money to go down there. I don't know what to do. We're gonna have to do something, but I don't know what to do. I said, don't worry about it. I have an emergency fund. This is an emergency. We're going to use the money. I'm paying for hotel, car rental, whatever we need. We're going to go down there and take care of my dad. Went down there, long story short, went down there, grabbed my father, took him back up here to Rochester so we could have the surgery here and go to the hospital. And he's proud to say he has half the tumor in his brain is shrunk because of the great care that we've been doing. Obviously, prayer and all the wonderful prayers that were petitioned on his half worked. But I'm telling you, just imagine if I didn't have that emergency fund. You get what I mean? I mean, no amount of money is worth the life of your loved one, but I'm just using that example for as something that I chose to do. It was not only able to help save me, because I mean, what if I didn't have that money? I had to make a decision for them to operate my dad because I just didn't have the means to do it. That money that I saved helped not only myself, but it also helped save my father's life. It extended him for 2 more years that he did not otherwise have. So I use that as an example to talk about my why and how it helped me and my family. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about building a budget that works for you. Okay. So again, everybody has their own budget, but I want you to think about your particular budget. Okay, team? Now you see here on this slide, it talks about understanding your cash flow. And on the left-hand side of the screen, it talks about your income. And on the right side of the screen, it talks about your expenses. Now your income, all that is basically what it is, money coming in. You hear the word income in the word, money that you have coming in. That's all income is. So you see income comes in the form of a paycheck that you get from a job. You know, some people may have a garage sale where they sell unwanted items that they no longer desire, but they're really good and they want to gift it to someone else and have someone pay a humble fee for the items. You have income coming in from a side hustle. Maybe you have like a legal business that you're doing on the side, like, you know, selling different services or products. You have maybe do some hair, some nails on the side, or maybe you have a side business where you're doing some consulting or whatever it may be. That is another way that you could bring in income, as well as additional support such as governmental services. Some people may be getting Social Security benefits, Social Security disability benefits. Some people may be getting temporary assistance for needy family or welfare benefits, as people call it too. Some people may be getting money from the government and of a pension or what have you. But the point is that those additional funds that you get in are considered income, as well as any gifts that you may get from loved ones or friends for birthdays or celebrations or religious holidays. Those are considered income that you receive from those financial gifts as well. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see expenses. And all expenses is a fancy term for money going out, okay? So the money that you have going out of your household, those are expenses. And you see common examples of expenses people have will be buying groceries, having fun, going for entertainment, maybe going to a movies or seeing a play or something to that effect. That's an expense that you may have. Obviously, a major expense would be paying your rent or mortgage. Also, childcare expenses, paying for daycare or diapers or formula. Those are expenses that some people have. Some people may not have those expenses because their children may be grown or they may not have any children at all. But again, that leads to the example of everybody's budget is unique and special to themselves. As well as you see here, which is another key point, monthly savings. I want you, team, to always budget in your budget money that you have set aside to save, okay, for your financial goals. Also, you see car and transportation expenses are another expense people have where they spend money on their car note, for example, or for a bus pass or Uber or Lyft or whatever mode of transportation that you may have, or car insurance. Those are other ways that people expense their various transportation or car expenses. This leads me to the next slide, where we look a little closer at your expenses. You see how there are needs and there are wants. Now, needs, all that is basically things that you must have that you cannot live without. Wants are things that, you can live without, but it's kind of like, I really like to have, okay? So those are things that, we want to have that are nice, but it's not necessarily I need this to survive. So examples of how we could differentiate the two are this. We need nutritious food, right? But do we need to go out to dinner? That's a want. Another example could be we want a safe home to live in. We need a safe home to live in. But a want will be a nice, fancy, upscale apartment or home. We got the granite countertops, the marble floors, and all those great things. Those are considered wants. Whereas we need clothing, but a want could be getting those high-end fashion clothes, like the True Religion jeans and the name brand Louis Vuittons and all those great things. Those are considered wants. But we need clothes to put on our back, especially in those Syracuse and Rochester winters. We definitely need clothes. Also, too, another need could be having access to the doctors, especially if we have need for medical, prescriptions and things of that nature and medical care. Those are needs. But wants could be going to the concert or going to, like I said, a play or something to that effect, or going on a vacation. Those are wants. We definitely don't need those things to survive, but those are things that we definitely would like to have, okay? Now that leads me to the next slide. This is where we go even closer into our budget, look at the difference between fixed expenses and flexible expenses. Now, fixed expenses are things that do not change from month to month. They are the same cost out of our budget each month. Where flexible expenses are things that kind of, it's like in the word, it flex, it just bends and it changes and evolves as the month goes on. An example of that would be, as you can see on the left-hand side, where we talk about our rent and mortgage. Normally, our rent and our mortgage is the same cost every month, that we pay that fixed expense every month, the same amount. Whereas groceries, that's a flexible expense because from week to week, those expenses change. An example of that would be this. One week, you may get the bulk of your groceries done and you may spend a few $100s buying groceries. But the next week, you may only need like a few, essential items such as milk, bread, eggs. You get the love and trying to say sugar, orange juice, those types of things. But you're not doing the bulk of your shopping because you just recently did that, but you're just getting additional supplies as needed for that week. So that's why that's an example of a flexible expense. Another fixed expense would be that doesn't change from month to month is your car note or your car payment. Whereas like your utilities, as you can see on the right-hand side, it's flexible because, for example, in the summertime, your gas and electric costs are a lot more economical than the wintertime when you're using a lot of heat to keep your homes warm during the winter months. You know, we're indoors more too, so your gas and electric costs may be a lot higher in the wintertime, especially in Syracuse and Rochester, when the winters could be really, really chilly like today. Also, you see insurance and dining out, you know, insurance costs are usually the same every month. We pay the same month for our car insurance or our medical insurance and things of that nature, or life insurance. Whereas dining out, some weeks you may decide to eat in the food that you've already bought from your grocery shopping. And sometimes you may go out to enjoy a nice meal with family and friends to celebrate a special occasion, for example. And you also see student loans as being a fixed expense because it's the same usually every month. Whereas hobbies, again, you may have to get additional supplies for that particular hobby of your choice because you have the bulk of them already through a major purchase from probably months prior or so. Okay. So those are the examples of the difference between fixed expenses and flexible expenses. Now, here is our girl, Maya. You see her beautiful face on the right-hand side of the corner of the screen. She is 25 years old. She's single. She doesn't have any kids. She lives in Syracuse, New York. She's doing good for herself. She's getting by month to month, but she's not able to save. Okay. So you could see with Maya, her goal is to align her budget to her value. So she wants to save some money. That's her goal. So as you can see, her expenses, she has rent in the tune of $1,250, $1,250. She has utility costs from her gas electric bill of $110 a month. Transportation, you see, is $100 a month. She spends some money on groceries, $250. She dines out as well to the tune of $400. She has a cell phone bill of $85, and she gets her nails done to the tune of $65 a month. So overall, her expenses add up to $2,345. Now, let's look at how she could actually save some money. Anybody want to be brave enough to unmute themselves and share how you think Maya could save some money for her future?
She can cut down on her eating out.
Yeah, she could cut down on it. Maya spends like $400 eating out. She eats real good. She got groceries at home, $250. Then she spends another $400 in eating out. So she could cut down on that. That's a great option and a great recommendation. Anybody else think she could cut down on some other ways?
Well, what are these subscriptions?
Yes. She could reduce on some of them subscriptions. Does she need Hulu and does she need Netflix? Does she need Disney? You know what I mean? She doesn't need all those streaming services. Maybe she could cut back on some of the subscriptions. Okay. So great ideas and great recommendations, team. Let's see ways that we could actually help Maya in addition to what was recommended. So you see the colors that are in that little kind of baby blue, not baby blue, but that bluish turquoise kind of color there. Those are her fixed expenses. So obviously they don't change month to month. They're the same cost. So that has to stay the same. But she has some essential needs that, obviously with the transportation and the groceries and her cell phone, that she was able to kind of reduce. So she saved by a little bit in transportation, $10 by getting a monthly transit pass. So she saved $10 there. She also cut back on some groceries. She did some meal planning. She also used some coupons, some bargaining, hunting, and things of that nature to get some deals at certain stores, but she was able to save $50 there. She also, on her cell phone bill, she saved a good, $20 with getting a new deal on a different plan. So you see how those little things added up, as well as with her wants. And you see that is color coded in yellow, but she was able to save some money as it was recommended by one of our, members here, that she was able to cut down on some of her unused subscription. So maybe she took off, instead of Hulu and Netflix, maybe she just kept her Netflix and maybe took off Hulu, or vice versa. Also, she even cut back on getting her nails done. So instead of getting all the bling on her nails, all the rhinestones and crystals and all the different ornaments, she got a simpler manicure and cut back on that. Or maybe she could do her own nails herself. Okay. Also, again, as it was recommended, she cut back on dining out. She was able to save a good $100 just in, swapping out her dinner and her lunch with going out to eat with maybe, doing some wonderful exercise. And she went on hikes just to get healthier physically, but also too healthy financially as well. So you see how Maya was able to save $250 just on cutting back on some things. So I'm using Maya as an example because you yourself may want to look at how you could actually cut back on your own budget, okay? And look and be nosy to see how you could cut back expenses. So you see how with Maya, what she had income coming in the tune of $2,400 a month. Her expenses before she budgeted were $2,345. But now she has, before she had left over $55. But now after budgeting, she cut down her expenses. Her income still was the same, but she cut down on the things she spent her money on, and she was able to save $305. I don't know about you, but $305 is better than no $105. You get what I'm trying to say? So those little cuts were able to help her with her goal of saving for a rainy day. Okay. So here is a knowledge checkpoint that we're going to have. And you see the answers are right here, the cheat sheet right here. So you see how a monthly car payment, that is an example of a fixed expense. Money spent on streaming services, as you can see, that was flexible because it could change from month to month. Also, the medicine that people receive, that right there, that is a need, that is an essential expense because sometimes we need medicine to survive. Say if you have a heart, challenge, or you have asthma, or you have hypertension, or high blood pressure, or diabetes, you may need that medication to survive. So we want to make sure that that is definitely included in your budget. As well as you see right here where it talks about an upscale gym, that is an example of a want. Now, come on, the key word in that is upscale. We could take advantage of like a Planet Fitness gym membership for $10, or either buy our own equipment and use what we have in our home, or do like Maya did and go for walks, and that could be cheaper or free. You get what I mean? So you want to look at those different things in as it relates to your budget. And when I talk about a budget, this right here are the makings of a budget. Okay, team? You see where it talks about your concept of a budget. And all a budget is basically the money that you get for your income that whole month. You minus that by the bills that you pay and your savings goals, okay? And any flexible expenses that you have. And the result of what's left over is your money that you have that you can use for saving or charity, okay? So this right here that I want to show you, I just went a little ahead of myself here. I want to show you a slide that I think is very important, okay? This right here is the slide that talks about a monthly budget. I want you to take a picture of this so that way you could go directly, it will link you right to that monthly budget sheet so you could do your own budget offline and use that tool to be able to help look at your budget purposely and passionately so you could be able to, start monitoring your money. And what I want you guys to do, all those under the sound of my voice that are in this sacred space now within this Zoom, or those that are looking through the streaming service at a later date, use that QR code. But I want you also to look at your expenses for at least 1 month. I would love for you to do 1 to 3 months, but at least 1 month, just write down everything, whether you go to Starbucks or go to Dunkin' Donuts to get coffee, or McDonald's to go get coffee, or you go to the vending machine at work or in the community, or if you spend money at McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, or out to a fancy restaurant, wherever you spend your money, I want you to record that, okay? And just look at that at the end of the month and just see how you could actually do some cutting back as well, okay? And that includes those streaming services, those nails appointments, those hair appointments, and all those great things. Look at how you could actually spend your money, but most importantly, how you could actually save some of that by cutting back some of the stuff like Maya did, okay? Now, here is a great slide because it talks about sticking to your plan. You want to make sure that you consider using your money for spending accounts, but also to make sure your savings are automatic. For those of you who are getting paychecks, automatically deduct some of your savings out of your paycheck to your savings account. Okay, now obviously I work for JP Morgan Chase, and we have a great tool called autosave that you could use by going on chase.com my credit, / my credit journey. You could use that as a way of actually getting free help with your credit information, as well as setting up your automatic savings goals. But whoever is lucky to have you, whatever financial institution is lucky to have you, you want to make sure that you set up an automatic savings program with that particular credit union or bank. So that way you could kind of make these things regularly, okay? Make your savings regularly, and you'll find that you'll be surprised that you won't even miss the money because you'll get used to living with that particular savings, that particular leftover balance, what I meant to say. And also, you also want to maybe think about, any type of money that you may receive from income tax refunds, or any type of bonuses or raises that you may receive, or extra money you get from gifts from family members or friends. You want to put that money aside too and save that, or either consider just saving at least half. Half is better than nothing, okay? So save half of that windfall from the lottery or wherever it may be, from that bonus from that job or that promotion that you may receive, the income from that. Put that money aside so that way you could, because you're already used to living off the money you have. So you want to make sure that you put a little extra to the side to save for those goals that you may have, okay? So when we talk about saving for what matters, what we're talking about is saving for an emergency fund, or either whatever short-term savings goals you may have, or a long-term savings goal that you may have. An example of that would be, this is a short-term saving goal that Kyle had. Kyle wanted to save $500 for an emergency fund. So you see how he saved $125 a month for the tune of 4 months to reach his goal of saving $500. And again, like I said, I don't know about you, but $500 is better than no $100. So his savings goal was for $500. And if you break that down, $125 a month, right? You break that down in 4 weeks. What's that? Roughly about what, $30 a week? So that's maybe like a meal going out, or that's one less meal going out, or when I say going out to eat, or maybe that's like one meal at McDonald's for a family, or something to that effect. But you get the love I'm trying to share. It's simple things I want you to think about that you could just do, just one little thing less than to save that money to reach your goal. Also, you have Danny, who's saving $2,000 for a down payment for a new car. That's his short-term goal. And a short-term goal is a goal that you're going to accomplish within less than a year or 5 years out. So 1 to 5 years, less than 5 years, you're going to accomplish that goal. That's a short-term goal. So what you're going to consider doing is saving it in a regular savings account, or preferably a high yield savings account. So you want to make sure that you do that so you could be successful. Okay. So now I have a hard stop at 7:45. I am going to conclude this presentation by saying, I thank you so much for giving me your time. I have so much to cover, and I want to make sure I do that. Hopefully the beautiful ladies of Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated, they will invite me back to come in for a later date to do another virtual session or in-person session. I'll be humbled to do just that. And if we have any questions or concerns, I'm going to yield my time to our technology chair, so that way she could be able to throw those questions at me so we could kind of answer those questions. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and turn over the floor to our technology chair. Sister Allen White, are there any questions?
Thank you. No, not so far in the chat, but because we know all of our beautiful ladies are online, they can feel free to unmute if they choose and ask any questions they may have. And even if it's a question that may not have been covered thus far in the presentation.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that disclaimer. All right, who wants to jump in? Come at me, ladies. Ask me those questions. I'm here.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I do have a question in terms of savings. When you so we are used to whatever our monthly income is, but if we get a raise, how much of what's the maximum amount of the raise that we should save, and what's the minimum amount? So should I save the 3% raise when I get it, if I get it, or should I what's your suggestion?
Good question. I would recommend that you save much as that as possible, okay? Because you're already used to living off of that money you were making pre-raise. So if you get a 3% raise, if it's possible financially, to save that 3% and just live off of the previous income that you were already accustomed to living off of. But if you want to save at least half of that, 1.5%, then that'll be a great start as well, okay? Now, the recommendation is for every dollar that we have, you want to spend 50 cents out of that dollar on your needs, another 30 cents out of that dollar, or 30%, you want to save that for your wants. And the remainder, the 20%, you want to save that for your future, which is your savings or any charity donations that you would like to give. You get what I mean? So you got the 50, 30, 20 rule. 50 cents out of that dollar goes to your needs, and that's your rent and all that, your mortgage and all that, and your bills. And another 30% that goes to your wants. So, you want to buy that new car, you want to buy that new bag, those new shoes, you get the love I'm trying to share.
Yes.
You want to be able to spend for that. And that 20% out of that dollar, you want to put that aside for savings, investments, or as charity donations.
Okay, good.
Good
I do have
question.
another follow-up question. Is there a specific kind of savings account or that we should be using, or just the traditional? I actually work with the credit union, so they do have just the basic, but I was just wondering if there's a certain kind of savings account that we should be using.
Great question. Great follow-up question. And please, look for a high yield savings account, something that you could get a lot of money off of, as best as you can. Shop around, if Chase, for example, we would love to have your business, but if you find somewhere better to have to get as much money, go forward with it, go forward with that financial institution, whether it be the current one that you use, that credit union or whatever, but look for a high yield savings account so that way that money could grow and compound. Okay. And compounding is basically fancy fluff for the money that you deposit. I have a slide in this deck that we were showing where it talks about compound interest. And that's basically where money that you deposit into your account, it grows off of the money that you actually put in there. So, for example, you put in $100 and they give you 10% for the money. Let's say you have a high yield savings account where it gives you 10% interest on that account. So 100 times 0.10, that'll be $110. Now you have 110 in month one. Month two, you put in another $100. So now you have $210 times the 0.10, and then et cetera, et cetera. You get what I'm trying to say? So you see how that money is compounding and adding up as each month. That's all it is. It's the reverse if you borrow money. Okay. So they'll charge you the 10% off of the $200 that you borrow, and whatever your balance is, it'll be the 10 or 20% how much the interest rate will be. You get the love I'm trying to share?
I do. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Any more questions, ladies? Because I hope y'all see I love talking about money. I can talk about money. Real talk.
I have a question, Romanda. So in the past couple of years, I've moved up into a different income bracket where, things are feeling okay. But I'm noticing, and this might be a CPA-ish question, so excuse me, where does where do donations come into that scheme of budgeting? Because I've noticed that if I donate, right, I can write that off on my taxes, and it's almost like a saving strategy in a way. Where in the wants and needs does where do donations fall?
Oh, in your budget, you want to put, a percentage down for your donations, definitely. Okay. We recommend 20% that you put, whether you split 10% for donations and charity donations, or another 10 you put for savings. But you want to make sure that in that 20%, you determine how much of that will go towards your charitable donations, and making sure that you record that. As far as talking specifically, as far as financially, how it'll benefit you, I have a QR code that will allow you to talk to a banker with JP Morgan Chase for free to talk about those things. Or like you said, maybe you could talk to your, CPA to be able to, talk about your financial strategy, is how, financially what you should be contributing to basically get a better tax write type of thing. Well, good questions, ladies. You guys are awesome.
I have a question. So as some members of the community are preparing to receive tax returns,
Mhm.
how should they prepare to receive these additional funds that they ordinarily should not have? Should they
Oh.
follow the same strategy for savings, or what's your advice for that?
Oh, that's a great question. I would recommend personally that they save as much as that as possible to go towards their financial future. So say for example, some people may be getting like $5,000 in refunds or $10,000, depending on how many dependents that they're claiming and their income. So I would recommend that they at least save as much as that, and half of that. So if you're saving out of that $5,000, $2,500, you put that aside, that is definitely a step in the right direction. You know, a lot of times, community members, we get into the habit of just like, okay, I got a little extra money, let me spend it and buy, the kids all the stuff that I didn't, wasn't able to buy them for the holidays and da 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 da. When you could have just sat down with the team and say, all right, kids, we have a goal of buying a house, or we have a goal of doing, buying a new car, or whatever your goal is that you sat down with your family to determine. And just say, look, we're getting this money, but I'm only going to spend so much, because our goal is we're going to save this money for an emergency fund, or save it for our car or a new home, or whatever it may be that your family goal may have. But starting out saving at least half of that money will definitely be a huge weight off of people's back, because how hurting is it when we have loved ones that die and we can't go to Florida and bury our dead? You get what I mean? That is like an ache that you always seem like you live with for the rest of your life, when you can't be able to do things like that. And those refunds could be a great platform to be able to help do that. So if you can't save 75% or all of it, at least save half. Half is better than nothing, or at least save 25% of that. You get what I mean? Whether in that example of, $5,000, 25%, what's that, about $1,500 or whatever like that? I don't have my calculator next to me, but you get the level I'm trying to share. Just save that aside, because that'll be better than no dollars. Good question. Appreciate you asking. Any more questions? I'm gonna do the math, because I feel like I'm doing a disservice by not getting my little calculations together. So while we're waiting for the next question,
I have another
that'll be
one.
$750. I'm sorry.
Yep, I have another one. There are some people in the community who utilize Cash App and Venmo, kind of like in the place of savings accounts or bank accounts, right? Can you share with us why banking with an institution is better than using those cards as a financial institution?
Good question. When we talk about using Cash App and things of that nature, as well as those virtual platforms like PayPal and Venmo, and they got so many of them now, Zelle and all that stuff, we lose the opportunity of not having a relationship with the banker, okay, and a bank. So when we need to take out loans for cars, and we need to take out loans for homes, and to get those large purchase items that we may not have $100,000 saved aside to buy that dream home or buy that nice car that we so desire, we don't have that. You can't get that through PayPal. You can't, we can't get those major loans and those student loans paid for by those services through PayPal and Zelle and all that great stuff. That's why a relationship with a financial institution is so important. So when we do have those desires to get those large purchases, we already have a relationship with that bank. They know us. We went into that particular branch or two, a couple of times. We talked to them about their financial goals, and they could be able to help support us with recommending products and services from that bank that we may not otherwise have been able to be taken advantage of if we stick to just virtual services. You could still have a virtual service through having, using the apps on the various financial institutions' website to get secure access to your money and, be able to pay people virtually if you so choose. But you most importantly want to have that relationship, just like you have a relationship with your doctor or your medical provider. So if something going wrong, you got a tickle in your throat or your ear aching, you go to see your doctor, and your banker at your financial institution, that is your financial doctor. They make sure you're healthy. They give you checkups when you need to, but also too, if you need to get a prescription for some financial services, a subscription meaning an application for a loan for a car or a home, you have that banker to advocate for you and to tell you about some, you know, great products and resources that you can take advantage of if you so choose. So good questions. And I hope I'm answering the questions, you know, to your satisfaction.
I have a question.
Yes.
We talked about needs and fixed expenses and
Mhm.
things of that nature. What about tithes and offering? Because I'm a firm believer that that should be a part of my budget.
Mhm.
So it's a need as far as I'm concerned, but I also use it as a fixed expenses. Do you agree with that, or you have some other method of how we should go about doing it, or?
I agree. I'm the same way. I pay my tithes faithfully at my church. I eat in missionary Baptist church. So I definitely make sure that that is included in my budget because you want to be purposeful. And that's, you know, again, the charity and offerings that you want to account for. And that's out of that 20% that we talked about. For some people, some weeks it may be more. It depends on whatever spiritually, you know, your God and who you believe religiously, your divine Lord, whatever they tell you to give during that time. You get what I'm trying to say? So like sometimes you may be, okay, you're led to give less or you're led to give more depending on the need of your church community. So you want to make sure you have money set aside for those donations via your faith-based organization, or if there's a particular cause that you are supporting, whether it be, you know, for example, you know, with me with brain cancer and things of that nature, or whatever charitable organization that you support and you wholeheartedly believe in, and you want to support their efforts, you want to make sure you give those charitable donations to that organization too. And putting in that budget, that 20% will be vital in order to make sure that you're able to, you know, have those dollars dedicated to whatever charitable organization, whether it be religious or, you know, an institutional organization that you want to support.
Now, what do you think about insurances or annuities?
Oh, good question. Now, as far as those questions, if you're talking about you're talking about like life insurance and all that great stuff and annuities and things of that nature. Okay. I am not at liberty to speak to that. That has a separate disclosure or licensure that our bankers are, you know, they have privy to that. So I would recommend that you talk to one of our bankers for free. I'm going to put up a QR code for those who would like to talk to a banker for free or attend a future workshop. That code that I'm going to put up will allow you to do that. But I'm afraid that I can't speak to those types of investments.
Okay.
But thank you for asking. And speaking of that, that gives me a segue into the QR code for today's event. There is a QR code right here on the screen that I'm sharing, where it actually allows you to talk to a banker for free. If you want to take advantage of talking to someone for about, you know, the different products and services offered to the bank, but also too, if you want to attend an upcoming workshop that I have virtually or in person, I will be able to get your blessing so that way I can email you offline. So invite you to those things so you can talk a little bit more for free with me about what we talked about tonight. Okay. So I'm leaving that up. And thank you so much, Sister Allen White, for always having my back on this chat and putting in the QR code registration. I mean the post event registration link into that as well. Now you also see, ladies and gentlemen, those who may be watching this at a later date via social media, you also see my direct contact information. That is my direct phone number that links me to this phone right here. You know, yeah, there you go. There got my phone. So it links it to me right there. So start me with love, and I'll be able to talk to you individually offline about any question that you may have about your finances as well. Okay. So now that I shared that, do you have any additional questions or concerns? I know we are a little bit over time, but this has been an amazing, amazing day that I had you. Thank you so much for inviting me to this. I'm really, really appreciative of the ladies of Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated. you're doing phenomenal work in the community. I'm humbled and honored to be one of your guest speakers tonight. As far as your LKM week of service, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Romanda. And if anyone else has questions that we can't get to right now, please leave it in the chat, or better yet, email Romanda directly, and she will share her magic with you, as she loves to loves to say. And so thank you all for joining us this evening. Special thank you to Dr. Katrina Allen White for the technology.
Hey.
You are amazing. You made it look seamless. You made everybody look good, girl. Thank you so much. And also we have Madam, our President, Evelyn, on the line. Madam President, would you like to say some words to close us out?
We certainly appreciate all of the information that you've given us, and that I'm sure those nuggets that people have picked up along the way will serve them well as they go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Well, I appreciate you saying that, and definitely I hope that the individuals, they look at this, really feel inspired by, to take their finances under control and to be able to help save and grow their finances, and using some of the nuggets that we shared to really have generational wealth for themselves and their family members and loved ones.
There you go. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. And conversations like this are very helpful because honestly, a lot of times in our community, as Black and brown people, we don't necessarily talk about money. We talk about not having it, but we don't talk about how to save it and grow it. So,
right.
And conversations like this are very candid. And I hope that the people that are looking at this and under the sound of my voice, those who are looking through streaming services at a later date, I hope you feel that, there are, people that you could talk to about money, and that we're here to help support you. And, please stalk us with love, because we're here for you, and I take my role very seriously, because obviously I look like the people that I serve, and the people that are served are me, so we have that in common. And that's why it was a logical match that I would partner with, your beautiful sorority. And I am humbled to be here. And thank you so much. And thank you those who are taking time out of their day to be here tonight. And also for future people that are viewing these through social media streaming platforms, thank you for looking at this as well and being here.
Okay.
As well.
Thank you so much.
All right. And with that, we bid you all a good night, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.